Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Constantinide and I am an international human rights lawyer. This video is about how can you be an international lawyer whilst being the mother, in my case, of two beautiful daughters. And I'm making this video because I deeply wish when I was having my girls to have watched something similar to allow me not just to prepare myself but to also organize my thoughts, which they were a bit scattered during those 2 years when I was pregnant and giving birth to my two beautiful daughters. Maybe it would have been very helpful for me to organize and articulate my thoughts better, but it's better it's better late than never. So I managed to find a formula perhaps to help if any of you are an international lawyer or you're thinking about it and you just want to put things into perspective, then this video is about you. So if you are an international lawyer like myself, and you're also a barrister like myself, and you're also self-employed like myself, then there's certain things that they need to be in place. And this video is about how to be an international lawyer with children, with having dependents on you and having a family. Now, the answer to that is a three-part one. So it's the one before actually deciding to create a family, one that whilst you're creating a family, so once you're pregnant, and the last part will be about once you have your child and you get your maternity leave. So let's talk about this first part when everything is beautiful and the idea of having a child. Some of you may find it already overwhelming, just the idea of it, or some of you may be very excited. So there's different type of emotions for each and every one of us, but nevertheless, it is indeed exciting times. Now, if you decide to do that, you need to be prepared. And I'm saying that because I wasn't prepared that I would be completely out during my pregnancies. For both of them, most parts of them, I had difficult pregnancies and they found me in bed most of the time, and that took a toll on me because it was very unnatural to me to be in bed. But it's about, and if you do come into that part that you may have that pregnancy, just remember that it's only for a very small amount of time of your life in order to create another life. So it is well worth it. But what I'm saying is that you got to have all these different options available to you and you got to be prepared. So I decided to have a child, yes. If my pregnancy, I would have thought at that time, is not going well, then what does that mean? And if it does go well, then the answer is simple. I continue working and there needs to be a plan in action for that. Now, if you do have one of those cases that it is a difficult pregnancy or there may be complications, the different type of difficult pregnancy, so it depends on where do you fall, which type of pregnancy you fall. There's some women, for example, you may have a low placenta. You're still able to have intellectual conversations and do your work through your laptop, but you can't walk too much, you can't move too much around. So if that's the case, you may be able to do remote work. So once you decide that you want to create a family, just prepare yourself of what can be in place. And of course, for myself, when we wanted to have our first daughter, I had to go through fertility treatments. And to be precise, I went through 2 full cycles of IVF and 3 egg transfers. And for my case, the actual fertility treatments, it didn't impact me. So I was able to work throughout it. So if you are one of these women, which I've met so many of you, that you've been in a similar position with me, then that's something you need to prepare yourself. And I've met some friends of mine that they had difficult times during the fertility treatments because of the hormones that you're taking, and it's not a rosy path most of the time, and it might have an impact on your mental health. So before you start and you're thinking about creating a family, what I would say, depending on your circumstances, just sit down, maybe in a coffee shop, order your coffee or your tea, sit down and just go through perhaps a 2-year plan. And I'm saying 2-year plan because of what's going to follow. So you decide that you want to have a family, write down. If you have to do fertility treatments, it may take some time. If you get pregnant, you may have a good pregnancy, but you may not. So what does that mean? Put a diary around it to understand a bit. So I think I will just go through a 2-year plan. And I do appreciate that these things you cannot plan it, but it's good to have to be prepared perhaps of all these different variables that are in place. And you don't want to go around and speak and tell everyone that you're going through fertility treatments. At least I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to say when I got pregnant, but then there was a point that I had to disclose it because I was not in a position to work. So sit down, look what you need to do, and do a 2-year plan. If that it may even mean that for 2 years you may not be able to work to the level that you want to. So then this moves us to this second part number 2. You are pregnant, congratulations, everything is going well. And even if you have the most beautiful pregnancies of all, you still have to take it a notch below that. So take it a bit easy, do not push yourself to the limits, and most importantly, you got to remember that you're carrying a human life. You got to respect that, and then once you're able to respect that, then the surroundings will respect that as well. Give yourself the time to embrace it, and don't push yourself at work as much as you would do before. So that's something that you got to factor in when you decide to have a family. Now that leads me to point number 3, which is the third part, which everything goes well. You had a beautiful birth. I gave birth to 2 daughters, and I can tell you that I had beautiful birth experience. It was magical. The way I've experienced it, it was as if I was part of heaven. It was so beautiful, so powerful. So I do wish you from the bottom of my heart that you do have a beautiful and a healthy birth for you, but for your child as well, and that everything goes well. So now you've got your baby in your arms, and it's a beautiful time. But before you do that, you would want to decide, so you can take from, I've heard barristers that they've been for 3 months on maternity, some 6 months, some 1 year, some others 2 years, and some of them decided to actually drop out completely from the bar because they wanted to dedicate themselves to the children and be a full-time mom. So there's all these different scenarios in place that you have to decide. Now, for me, doing what I do, it's not just about the purpose that gives to me. It is about the purpose and the fact that I can return back to this world, because I do feel that we take, as human beings, and at least I can speak for me, I take the emotional and the physical space, and I've got something, at least I've got something good to do in this world, and I'm trying to do that through my work. So it means so much to work, and being just at home doesn't communicate all these different parts of my being. And that's why I decided with my second daughter, when I given birth to my second daughter, that I'm going to be on maternity for about 7 months. Now, this is the trick. So you say you want 6 months of maternity, which of course you're going to let your clerks know, or your firm. If I'm talking about self-employed, if you're working for a company, of course that means the policies in place, and you may have to work that with your employer. But if you're self-employed, you have that liberty to decide for yourself and really create the maternity plan yourself with your clerks. So what I did is that it's like a small project management here. So the first thing that I've done is that I need to make sure that I was well. So that took me about at least 5 months to feel that I was standing on my feet. So I managed to get better sleep. I started feeling a bit better. My pelvic floor exercises were getting a bit better, so my back was feeling nicer, and we found ourselves a good care for our children. So I've got to make sure that, you know, all that was in place. So what happened is that the first part of it is that once my second daughter got to 5 months, I started interviewing for nannies. And then I decided which is the one that I wanted to be a part of our home, and then give it a good month to settle into this new routine with your children, and of course with this new person that comes to be part of your family. Once that was in place, then I spoke to my clerks, and I decided and I tailored the workflow that I wanted. So in my case, I went firstly for remote hearings or trials. That is the first preference. The second preference was if I can have document reviewing or a disclosure or drafting pleadings that I could still do from home. And then thirdly, if that wasn't the case, then I can attend in-person hearings or trials, but within the London region. So that's something I clearly communicated to my clerk, so they know what my preference is. And I would give about a month for that workflow to be in place, because if you're self-employed, it takes a bit of time to fill up your diary and have that workflow and consistency that you ideally would want to have. So once you have that, the last month of your maternity in preparation to actually get into your full-time job is in relation to pro bono work. So once you ensured that you have everything in place, your home is well, your children are fine, yourself, you've got time, you're responding work with the workflow, you feel good, you mentally feel fine, then you would want to look at what amount of time can I actually take now and dedicate it to pro bono work. It could be as little as 2%, or it could be as much as 20% of your time that could go towards pro bono work. And that's something that each and every one of us has to answer to that question as to how much pro bono we want to do and how much we are able to do. And of course, in planning all that, having a financial plan, sitting down with your partner, with your husband, with the person that you want to create family, and look at numbers. So because I spoke to different barristers and King's Counsel, everyone has a different way of responding to maternity leaves and creating families. It's just because we don't know what they have, what support they have, or financial support. If that barrister, for example, because of the family, they've inherited, I don't know, a block of flats and they get a steady income, and you don't just rely on your income, that makes a huge difference, doesn't it? So be realistic, look at what your personal circumstances are and work with what you have. We always got to be grateful for what we have and work towards it to become better. But you've got to be grateful for what you have, and the fact that we are strong, powerful, independent women, educated, and doing what we do. I think that's a great starting point. So if you're currently on maternity, if you're thinking about creating a family, if you do have any questions, I do hope that this video was a tiny bit helpful. But if you want to get in touch and speak about it a bit more, please do so. I'm available on all social media platforms, and I would very much like to help you. Thank you so much for listening. And since you're not here to have a coffee, you can always buy me virtual coffee, and by doing that, you're all supporting the content of this channel. Thank you so much, and have a lovely evening. Bye bye.